Welcome to I'm an Asset podcast. I am your co-host, Dr. Breanne Smith.
And I'm your other co-host, Zachary Wilson, not a doctor. Today we are talking about a little bit of personal capital stuff, mainly like overarching question about formal education and kind of spending time on learning and how does that relate to your personal capital.
Particularly increasing your education and personal capital other than a formal undergraduate education, and maybe even helping talk through how to judge when would be the right time or what to consider when you're thinking about increasing your education in some way, and what are the points that you look at as far as making a decision.
And I like this topic because applying yourself to opportunities and, just trying new things and challenging yourself to learn and just increase your knowledge it's going to increase your personal capital. It's going to make you a more rounded individual, more adaptive to other fields. And kind of with all the things we're going to talk about, you really can't go wrong with helping yourself. So,
well, I think that's a good thing that you just said, because what points are important to consider when determining whether or not to increase your education in something, because we do not have an unlimited amount of time. And so we do have to think about how to allocate our time to certain things that we're responsible for, our current career, maybe even our current education. But at what points do we consider in spending time in another skill or education and learning it? And that's really what we want to talk about, because we can't just learn everything and spend all our time learning. There has got to be some balance in what we pick.
Yeah. And I think if you're having trouble discovering, kind of how much time you do want to allocate to learning and, whatever field you're interested in, I think it boils down to your goals. So before you even consider that, you have to set it aside and think about, how much time do I have outside of my current priorities that I have to do and responsibilities. And then think about, to what degree do you want to go? And then you can kind of start building out a plan from that. Those are very broad terms, but then again, I'm trying to speak to many situations, because I know not everyone's thinking about going to acting school or whatever, which is, we're going to get into that in a bit. But what do you want to start with?
Well, I think one thing we'll just go with what you just said, which is one way to judge whether or not increasing your education is important is considering your goals. So one thing that you can do is, if you have a certain career or position that you're interested in, is to pull the job requirements for that position and gauge whether or not you meet, exceed, or fall short in the education requirements. Because let's say you want to have a career in, a certain technology field, and you have to have for that technology field maybe a certain certification or two. You have to have maybe beyond an undergraduate degree. Maybe you need a master's, or maybe you need some kind of, boot camp school of some kind. So I think it's important to look at a goal as far as a position and what the requirements for that are, to gauge whether or not it would be good for you to take on additional education in that area. It also doesn't have to be related to a job. If you have a goal as far as maybe entrepreneurial, which we can get into the acting side, that's something that I've heard you talk about, wanting to dabble in or have fun with, is voice acting or just acting in general. And we've discussed how you could get into, some positions like that. You could, try out for the school play, or recently we discovered there's a 4-week program at our local Shakespeare Festival where you can do some weekly training for 4 weeks.
Yeah. And I never even thought about, I never even was looking into that. And she brought it up. She sent me something And I was like, okay, that seems a little extreme. But then again, I mean, if it is something I'm really considering, then it could potentially be beneficial. So I kind of had to ask myself, how serious am I about wanting to pursue this passion? Because it's certainly interesting to me, but I had to ask, is it interesting enough to want to take the time to allocate my resources and energy into it? And we'll see where it goes. I'm still considering doing it. I have a
Mm-hmm.
while to decide, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't even know if it'll be related to what I want to do. But then again, I
It
mean,
doesn't have
the
to.
worst that could happen is that it's a new experience and it makes me more of a more well-rounded individual, and it's something I can look back on and say, well, I did try that, and now I'm sure that is something I don't want to do, because I don't want to be sitting around the table thinking, well, maybe I would have been in this place if I had done that. But
Mm-hmm.
if I do try those new experiences, then I'll know for sure. And I mean, this is definitely the age to do it.
Well, I never think you're too old to increase your learning in
Yeah,
something that you might be passionate about or something that you're
that's
interested
true
in.
too. Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be related to your job. And I think that's the point we're trying to get across today is increasing your personal capital might not just be related to increasing your skills, it's related to your career. And increasing your personal capital can also be just increasing your overall well-being and happiness by learning how to do something that's a hobby or a skill, or when you increase your well-being and your happiness, it makes you a better employee in your job, in my opinion. And so I think it's not a waste of your time to spend time training in something that you might enjoy, like maybe an art class or drawing class or something like that. And acting, who knows? Maybe you'll fall in love with it and that's what you want to do with your life. Or maybe you want to do this voice acting thing and it helps you with that. Or maybe you just enjoy it with something that you do and it actually helps you be a better public speaker or gives you more confidence. Also, things that can improve your personal capital. So I think there's some intangibles here that we need to bring to the surface when we're trying to consider whether or not to take on an extra class or an extra skill.
Yeah, and I think we could touch a little bit more on that second question there about personal capital, because like you were saying, she just explained all the different things that could come out of going to an acting program, and even if it isn't what I want to do, how there's still
Benefits.
benefits. And I think it's just to broaden the message here. It's like that with just about everything, right? Wouldn't you say?
Well, I mean, it can be like technology, for example. We are in an age in technology that is rapidly progressing so fast. And I think if you're in any kind of job that has to do with working on a computer, I think it would behoove everybody to take a step back and do a little technology upgrade and training, because it's moving along so fast that you don't want to get out of date in your technology skills if you have a job that requires you to be on a computer. So I think that's something that's not necessarily industry related, but it is just related to the time in which we are.
Especially with
Right
AI
Yeah.
and all the things that are happening. There's so many applications for it. And it's just it does a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You can invest a little bit of time learning how to use it, and then that saves you a lot of time in the long run.
Yeah, for sure.
It can.
For
There's not
sure.
a guarantee.
And that's also something to consider when you're trying to decide to take some technology classes is what do you hope to get out of it, and making sure you pick a class or a course or a series of videos that, helps you get to the goal that you want. I don't think we're only talking about some of these skills, though. We're also talking about maybe taking your formal education beyond the undergraduate degree. Just a couple of days ago, I was I don't even remember where I was. Maybe I was in a committee meeting or something, and someone asked me, or no, I was in a training, and the trainer asked me, hey, I've been considering going back to school and getting my PhD. I saw you have a PhD. Do you think it's worth it? That was his question to me. And I think, and what I said to him was, it really depends. Because like you said, it depends on your goals. And worth it in what way? Like, what would make it worth it to you? Just saying, I'm a doctor, that has some intangible benefits to me in feeling accomplished, confidence, instant credibility, and, just some skills in the doctoral program related to understanding research and those kind of things. But then also, did it benefit financially? Yes, absolutely it did. But that's not always going to be the case. So I think it just really does depend. What do you think about when you're considering how much school you will go through?
You asking me?
Yes.
Well, I do have to look at my values. As with anything, as with any decision like this, I'll break you down with my thought process as we go. I have to consider what I value, because what I value is what makes me happy, and whatever makes you the most happy is typically the root of most of your decisions, if you really boil it down. So obviously I want to make enough money to sustain whatever lifestyle I have. So there could be some monetary benefit to, and more positions available with having that. Are we talking specifically about a doctorate, or just like beyond undergrad?
Formal education beyond undergraduate, like a master's, doctorate, an MD.
I was definitely considering a master's degree of some kind, because, for the reasons I just said. And I like knowledge. I like intellect. So, it's not like I'm doing it just for the sake of learning, not like that. But I do like understanding how things work, and how do I say this? I wouldn't really want to just live in this economy forever without understanding how it works. Like, obviously right now I'm participating in the economy every time I buy something, every time I go to the gas station, or part of my paycheck goes to the government. But I don't really understand any of that, and I don't want to go on the rest of my life not understanding how the businesses I'm giving my money to work, or how the government's working, with everything that's kind of interweaving together. So I like understanding what's actually happening around me. So that's I was particularly exploring a master's in like accounting. Is that how you say it? A master's in accounting? Because I wanted to have a business, or not have a business. I wanted to be in the business of accounting, and I like to understand what I'm working with. For instance, right now, I don't really understand a lot of what I'm doing, but you show me what I'm doing and I can repeat it, and then I can do the labor. But I like to know, kind of think about the steps all the way down. This is really going down a rabbit hole.
No, but I think you're making some good points, and I think it relates back to talking about the resume, and that if you want to be a CPA, as the rules are now for CPA requirements, and those may change, you need 150 hours of education, which is an additional year of school in order to be eligible to be licensed as a CPA. So you would need a master's. You don't actually have to have a master's degree to sit for the CPA, but you have to have the same hours that a master's degree would require. So we generally just say, hey, if you can get your master's along with the 150 hours, and that makes sense, then do it.
Yeah. And that would better prepare you for the exam itself, wouldn't it?
It is meant to help prepare for the CPA exam. Yes. So the what you're talking about here is the way what you're considering as far as education has to do with a little bit about the lifestyle too that you would
Yeah.
like to have as a adult working family man.
Mhm.
You've said in the past too that you don't want to work all the time.
I really don't. I mean, can I get an amen?
Yes. And you want to have the ability to be present with your family and available to your family.
Yeah. I like somebody I would not be able to find. I could not recall where I found this from. But money is like the most, what is it? Something to do with it. Money is the best asset when it comes to controlling your time. Because if you have, I mean, if you're not spending hours at a job making money to pay for the things, you know, that's time you can spend doing what you want. So it's very, very, to put it very broadly, if you have more money, you have more freedom, right? More freedom to purchase certain things, more freedom to do what you want with your time, right? So there is a certain degree to where I want to make money, but there's also that degree where I'm thinking, well, you know, I'm making money to have the time, but if I'm so busy making the money, then I really don't have the time. So I'm trying to find the balance.
Yeah, and I think this is a perfect example of how education in something can not only increase your income, but also increase other things that are important to you. Like here, we're talking about time, because many people, when they think about increasing their income, they think about, I have to increase my hours in some way, work more to make more, which that's actually not the only way you make money.
Yeah.
There's plenty of ways to make money that doesn't mean increasing your time.
Yeah.
Now, will it take you some time to learn the skills on how to create income without increasing your time allocated to it? Yes. So that might be an example of somewhere where you put forth some effort into learning and educating yourself on those things and putting that time in on the front end so that you don't have to continue to put time in it later and continue to make money.
And I'm sensing a pattern here with there's like this original investment, or I should say initial investment of time to just know, you know, what it is you're doing. Like, for instance, you could say, I'm going to invest in real estate properties as a form of passive income. You already know what you want to do. You know that, but you do have to actually learn and know how to do that. So there is, you know, or like with the master's degree and the accounting world, if you want to be in that, you do have to give that initial investment. If you want to be a doctor, you have to have the initial investment of going to medical school. So it's, I'm sensing that pattern.
Yeah, in your economics or finance classes, do you ever talk about like a cost benefit analysis or the cost of learning or the opportunity cost of something? Do you ever talk about anything like that?
Probably just, I'm not really recognizing the terms you're putting it in.
Yeah, so just like you're saying, you've got to put in either the time or the money or both on the front end. And then when you're trying to judge if that's something you should do or not do, you not only have to look at, all right, if I'm going to spend the time now, what is it taking away from? And are you okay with that? And does that make sense? And then once you've put in the time, what are you getting back or out of it later? And does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's really not only comparing about what you have to give up in order to learn it, but then will it be worth it after you get it done?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Yes. And I did talk about that a minute ago with like the what makes you the most happy thing, because that's like all you just said kind of boils down to that.
Yeah. And one thing we haven't talked about here that I think is valuable for anybody who's trying to increase their personal capital at any stage or season of your life is you alluded to it just a minute ago, is your financial literacy.
Mm-hmm.
And you were talking about it as it relates to learning about how things work and about how you're contributing to the economy, which is an element of financial literacy. And I think that's important for everyone to be up to speed as far as where there's money, where their money's going, how their money is working for them or against them, and certain transactions that they might be participating in, and educating yourself on a transaction prior to doing it. And that, you participate in different financial decisions your whole life, because seasons change. You're accumulating money your whole life, and then you decumulate it in retirement.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes into the, different seasons of your life. So just being financially educated is worth your time.
Knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
That's the message.
Is it? I don't know that we're really saying that we're looking for more power.
Well, I think you have a different interpretation of power than I do. If you look at the literal definition, the literal definition might be more authority based. When I think of power in this scenario, what I'm trying to say is kind of the ability to do what you want to do.
Autonomy.
I don't know how I want to say it. Yeah, I'll say it like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if you have more knowledge, you might. This is hard to break down. If you have more knowledge in a certain field, you can go to a greater extent. Like with the computers, if you know more about computers in a certain area, then you can maybe do a business in computers or help someone else.
Yeah. But I do agree with you that having more knowledge in, especially the financial area, does give you the ability to make better financial decisions and makes it less likely for you to be taken advantage of, honestly. And I'm just going to throw this out there as being a female who recently has tried to buy a car for your brother, and how very, very often, and we went to many dealerships and tried to get many different cars, how initially someone tries to take advantage of you, thinking you don't understand how this works. And so I think you can, when you do educate yourself on what the fees are, how the financial side, the financing side works, or the actual costs in the inside of the transaction, it's harder for someone to pull one over on you. You know what I mean?
Did you tell them you were a doctor?
No.
Should have led with that.
Yeah. Well, I think this was a really good chat. I'm glad you brought it up. And I think we'll continue to talk as you are considering your major in the future and considering what you want to do with your life. And I think you should consider doing this acting school. I'm interested in following along what you decide.
Figuring it all out. I don't know yet, but
yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's natural, so it doesn't bother me too much, but I should probably get on it soon.
Yeah, I think you got till the middle of December to decide. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for watching.
Right. See you next time.